Okay, just need some time to get your license cleared.
Yeah, I'll go back to work till we got first. I just need time so I can go to work to get some money.
I can't continue with that.
Okay, well,
You know, I'll give you as much as I can,
Okay.
rather than you borrow money from somebody and
That's
pay them back. You know what you need to pay?
yeah, I know that.
Oh, okay. Who's in it?
We could do June 27th at 9 o'clock.
That'd be good. All right, sir. And, you know, like I say, if you can't get everything done, come back and see us.
That's
So
fine.
see if we can give you a little more time.
I'll take care of it.
All right, sir. Yes, sir. Come on. Sure, now. Good luck to you. Yeah, I mean, who's the officer? Do you? Oh, here it is, right here. Officer, Lieutenant, you're out.
Yes, sir.
He needs a little more time to get his license cleared.
I go to that same court date, Officer Garvis provided
6/27
at 9. Yes,
All
sir.
right, so we'll give you 30 seconds. All right, good luck to you now. We'll see you back. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you will, as your name is called, if you'll come to this podium on your left at the front of the courtroom, if you're a witness for the city of Greenville, if you join the officers on the other side.
Officer Miller. Brook Graham.
All right, Detective Winger, I just got one charge, warrant 01439, and that's charge of murder, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, sir, and is it Mr. Gregorol, is that correct?
That's correct, Your
Is that all the charge you understand here today for the plenary?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you waive in your client's presence?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, so very good. If you raise your right hand for me, please, man. Testimony about you in this case be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And if you'll tell me about facts and circumstances in Ms. Graham's charge here today.
Yes, Your Honor. On 2/13/1990, a newborn female infant was discovered deceased in a vacant lot on Hilton Street. The infant was abandoned inside a Sears vacuum cleaner box covered with bedding and rags. Autopsy results revealed the infant was alive at birth and possibly several days old when found. A review of the Sears vacuum purchase order history revealed the accused, Brook Graham, and her boyfriend purchased that same vacuum cleaner and could not produce a box to detectives when questioned at the time. The accused and her boyfriend lived in close proximity to where the infant was abandoned. DNA later revealed the boyfriend was the infant's biological father. Further interviews revealed that the accused was the only person the biological father was having a sexual relationship with at the time and could have impregnated. This incident occurred within the city limits of Greenville, South Carolina, and further DNA testing proved she was the biological mother.
Okay, so there's DNA on both sides now.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, answer any questions that Mr. Bradwell would have for you, please.
Detective Lindbergh, when did you become involved in this case?
In October of 2018,
And at that time, were you the one that sent or had the DNA sent off to for comparison to the genealogy lab?
yes,
Okay. And are you the one that conducted an interview with the biological father?
yes,
Okay. And at that interview, was that recorded or anything of that nature?
it was.
Okay. And has that been turned over to the solicitor's office?
Not at this time. It's still being investigated. The case is still being investigated.
Okay, so the video of the father has not been turned over to the solicitor's office yet.
It's audio. No, sir, not yet.
Do you anticipate when that'll be turned over?
When I finish talking to the witnesses from the case.
So you've talked to the father, you've made an arrest based upon his testimony, but you haven't turned that evidence over to the solicitor's office yet.
No, sir, it's still a pending case.
When do you think the defendant should have a right to get that information?
No, sir, that's an improper question. It's not up to her to decide, frankly. The solicitor's office can be involved in these things from the very beginning. So they may have plenty of opportunities already reviewed it. Now, discovery process is going to take place in accordance with what's ordered by this court and the circuit court.
Yes, Your
And
Honor.
that's when you'll get yours and the solicitor's office will have to turn it over to you. Move on.
Okay. Now, you conducted an interview with the biological father, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And how many interviews did you have with him?
2.
Okay. And did he admit to knowing that Miss Graham was allegedly pregnant?
No.
So this baby was found, and it was approximately how far along in the gestation period, I guess?
It was a full-term infant.
And the biological father, who says that he was with her the whole time and only had intimate relationships with her, said that he didn't know his wife was pregnant.
Correct.
I don't know if it's his wife. You said it, girlfriend at the time.
They weren't legally married.
Now, did you go talk with Miss Graham before you arrested her?
No, sir.
Is there a reason you didn't go speak with her first to get her side?
No, sir.
What other information did you have related to the charge against Miss Graham besides the biological father's statement?
That was it for the arrest.
So the biological father said he didn't know she was pregnant, it must have been her, and that was what the basis of the warrant was.
There were some additional things that were said.
Okay. What else was said?
That she put their first baby in the toilet and he got it out.
And what did he do with it?
He called the ambulance.
Okay. And there's reports of that. Have you gotten those?
They don't have records back that far.
And he said he knew nothing about how the baby ended up in the box, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that back in 1990 that the police went and questioned Mr. Graham, or the biological father of Miss Graham?
Correct.
Okay. Have you reviewed any officer notes on that, or just the incident report itself?
Supplemental.
Are there any notes by the investigating officer from back then about what was said?
It's a supplemental that they typed
Okay.
of what they said.
Right, so there's no handwritten notes that correlate with that report?
Not for Brook Graham, no, sir.
Okay. Is the officer that did that interview around or available?
Yes, sir.
Now, you got the arrest warrant based upon what the biological father said, and then you got samples, I believe, from Miss Graham when she was arrested, correct?
Correct.
Did she make any statements to you at that time?
No, sir.
Did she in fact ask for a lawyer?
No, sir.
Did you seek to question her at that time?
I presented Miranda to her.
And you didn't ask her any questions?
I presented Miranda and questioned her, and she answered questions, but it was denial.
Okay. So she did answer questions.
Well, she said she didn't know what I was talking about, if that's...
Fair enough. Typically, in an investigation like this, would you not have gone to talk to her before getting charges since there was only one person's testimony against her?
Not necessarily.
And as far as the biological father, does he have any kind of criminal record?
He does.
What kind of record does he have?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Any kind of violent crimes?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Do you think that would be important in determining the credibility of his statement, since he's the only reason of
No,
the
sir, that's a subjective question and it's not proper.
Your Honor, I respectfully understand the court's ruling. I guess my concern is that the charge is based solely upon one person's testimony, that the credibility of that person is extremely crucial in determining probable cause.
Well, and I would normally agree with you, except for the DNA results, which they knew before they even re-interviewed him. She's already testified that at the time that other officers were involved in the case, they interviewed both the biological father and the biological mother, and they gave some statements then. I don't know what they were. And certainly they could rely on those in addition to whatever information that he provided at this time.
Well, actually, Your Honor, they interviewed, I think, like 20 people about a vacuum cleaner box back in 1990.
I have no idea. I haven't heard that here today, so I don't know.
How many people did they interview about possible Sears vacuum cleaner boxes? back in 1990?
Everybody that was on the list, it was 20 to 30. I'm not sure the exact number.
And Mr. Grant, or sorry, the biological father and Miss Graham were one of the people that ended, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And this case stayed cold for almost 30 years. Is that right?
Correct.
And the biological father has some kind of criminal background, but we don't know exactly what that is at this time.
Correct.
Now, tell me, have you reviewed the autopsy reports in this case?
I have.
Okay. And the cause of death is undetermined, is that correct?
Correct.
Has that changed based upon your investigation?
No, sir.
Okay. And I assume since you've charged Ms. Graham with murder that your position is the baby was alive at the time it was put in the box?
Correct.
Okay. And did you see in the reports where it indicates that the mercurium and things of that nature are suggested that can also occur during in utero as well?
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay. In utero would mean while it was still in the womb, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And bear the course indulgence for one moment. Yes. On
I don't have to talk to report.
On March 9, 1990, there's a Department of Pathological Anatomy from Ringgold Memorial Hospital by Dr. Minette. And it says on page 4 that this does not suggest life beyond hours to days. It suggests a short life period, but also found in utero. Do you dispute that?
I'm not a medical doctor.
All right. And there was some discussion in the autopsy reports as well that the baby had air in its lungs. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the argument appears to be that would indicate it had at least taken one breath after being born, correct?
Correct.
Was there also information in the autopsy reports that indicated that could have come from decomposition as well?
I don't have the autopsy report with me. I don't know.
So we have a autopsy report that indicates that the cause of death is undetermined. We have information in the autopsy report that indicates this may not have been a live birth, correct?
No, it said it was a viable baby.
What page does it say that on?
You would have to read it. I don't have it with me.
Okay, well, I mean, you use that as part of your investigation to make the charge, correct?
I did.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the autopsy report with you?
I don't have it with me.
The DNA match that occurred was based upon DNA taken from the baby's body itself, fluids or tissue, correct?
Correct.
Were there any other DNA samples in the box, the wrapping, or whatever else was in that Sears box?
Not that I'm aware of.
Were those submitted for testing? Do you know?
Yes, they were.
Okay. Anything come back that was a match in that box to Miss Graham?
They used a blood spot for the baby's DNA that SLED had.
From the infant, correct?
Correct.
All right. But as far as my understanding is that in the Sears box there were packing materials, some kinds of clothing or fabric or things of that nature the baby was wrapped in. Is that correct?
Correct, but none of that stuff was tested for DNA.
Is that stuff still available today?
It should be, yes, sir.
But we don't know if there was other DNA, if the biological father's DNA was in there as well.
No.
Thank you for some indulgence for one moment. Have you ever made a homicide case or a murder case where there's no cause of death known.
Not that I can remember.
Typically, in a homicide or murder case, is it not the case that there's a determined cause of death? Now, if the witness is testifying, I'm not sure the prosecution needs to be talking to her while she's testifying.
I think she just was mulling that over. I don't know that, I can't tell you, and I've been practicing law for 42 years. I know there have been successful prosecutions for murder where the body has never been discovered in the state.
No, you're right. That's not what I was saying. I'm saying if the witness is testifying, she
I
doesn't need to be
understand.
having conversations with someone else would be my objection.
Oh, well, look, y'all don't converse with it. I didn't realize that we're talking to each other. I thought you were just thinking about what was
Yes,
the
sir.
question.
Do you have an answer?
What was the question?
The question was, have they had successful, typically in a murder prosecution, do you not have a determined cause of death?
I don't think I've ever had a case where I didn't have a cause of death, but obviously there have been cases where there hadn't been a cause of death.
And do you agree that in a murder prosecution, you need to be able to prove that there was a death that wasn't existent at the time, correct?
Correct.
So there has to be proof that the baby was alive before it could be killed, correct?
And according to the autopsy reports, it was.
So as far as the bacterial growth causing the gases in the lungs, you dispute that?
I don't dispute any of it. I'm not a medical doctor.
Well, you made a determination legally to charge her based upon the medical evidence, and the medical evidence indicates that it's air in the lungs, but also could have been caused by bacterial growth, correct?
I made a determination when the autopsy report said the baby was viable at birth and had lived. That was my determination.
Yeah, give me 1 second, please. And we'll wrap it up. Did you read a report? I assume you read all the supplemental reports, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did you read a report where an officer was there during the autopsy? Or was it Officer Banton? Excuse me. Did you read his reports?
I've read numerous reports. You would have to be more specific.
Okay. On February 14, 1990, on his supplemental report, he wrote, Dr. Manette was the doctor who performed the autopsy. In discussing it with him, he said the decomposing body obtains gases and this could cause the lungs to float. However, he was leaning toward the fact that since the pinkish area of his lungs as well as the black shade of his lungs floated, that the child was alive. So, do you dispute that there was uncertainty about whether this child was breathing or not?
I went by the autopsy report saying that the child was alive.
So, would you agree that if it is not certain that this baby was breathing at the time of birth, that the murder charge could be in dispute?
No,
So if the baby was born deceased, you still charge it with murder?
that's not what the autopsy report said.
Do you dispute what the detective that was there during the autopsy
We're
said?
not going to pit one witness against another, sir. Mr. Banton's not here to testify, neither is Dr. Manette. The autopsy report stands on its own four corners at this proceeding. And if the autopsy report indicated to the police at the time that the baby was viable, alive, and had taken a breath, in the doctor's opinion, at the time the formal autopsy report was completed, then that's for you to debate with a Dr. Manette at a different hearing at a different time. This is strictly probable cause.
And Your Honor, our position would be that if it's probable cause, you can't charge someone with murder without there being proof the baby's viable.
And
It's
according to
disputed.
her testimony, she's had that, not according to any other testimony I've heard at this time. Your statements notwithstanding
Yes, Your
about
Honor.
what you interpret and what's written in other supplemental reports.
Right at this point, that would be all the questions we have.
Anything other further from the city?
No, Your Honor.
All right, anything other further from you, for the professor?
No, Your Honor, I think for purposes of the record, I need to make a motion to dismiss next week.
I understand, and I'm going to deny that, and send it on to the solicitor's office to allow them to review it and submit it to grand jury if that's their choice.
Fair enough.
All right, good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next case.